Hey everyone, so this video is going to be a bit different. I don't have a particular finished output to show you, but I am going to be building something live, which is an AI visibility dashboard. So I'm going to be building this dashboard using DataForSEO APIs. I am looking to create this as an alternative to the existing expensive options out there, just to see how easier and cheaper it is to build something like that by yourself with a few tools stitched together. I think this video is going to be helpful for those out there who are looking to build their own AI visibility dashboard, people who want to see how easier, how efficient it is compared to an established solution. Apart from curiosity, one of the reasons for building this is because in my daily day-to-day SEO work, I work with a lot of brands, and one of the challenges that I face when onboarding multiple brands here, Breaking B2B, is scaling our existing AI tracking solution. So one of the options is obviously to increase our tier that we're using of that particular tool, but sometimes that can be expensive. So I thought, hey, why not create something custom in-house? And that's where this do-it-yourself solution comes in. I am not sure if this is going to be production ready or something that we will be using for our clients, but I thought it would be interesting to see how easy it would be to create something like this that maybe we can also use for client work. So I don't have an idea of how long this video will take. I will be building the tool live in this video. I do have an idea of what inputs I will be using. I will be using the DataForSEO API, which I will explain in a bit. I will be using Claude Code to stitch the code together and build the actual tool. And I have an idea of what the output would look like. But apart from that, this is going to be very freestyle. So if you're wondering how to build such a tool using a cheaper way, this video is going to be helpful. So let's dive straight in. So the first thing that we will need is something that can take our prompts, go to the specific LLM models, fetch their response for that output, and then present that information in a structured way. So for this, I will be using DataForSEO and their collection of APIs. DataForSEO, if you don't know, has a vast range of APIs for basically all of the SEO workflows that you can imagine. They have one for scraping the SERPs, for keyword research, for checking backlinks. You can go to their website, dataforseo.com/APIs, and you can have a look at all of their APIs. They're very cost effective, which is one of the main reasons that I am using them for this task. In particular, I will be using the AI optimization API. This API of theirs is geared towards scraping LLMs for particular prompts, scraping multiple LLMs within a single UI, and getting the information condensed in a single place. I will be using the LLM Scraper API, which is a bit different than their LLM Responses API. It's this API. So this API doesn't just make an API call to a particular LLM model and get that response. It actually goes and scrapes that model. And the benefit of that is instead of getting a generic output while using the API, the scraper actually goes and scrapes that information by simulating how an actual user might be searching. So the response that you get with the LLM Scraper API will be more similar to if you were searching, you were prompting ChatGPT or Gemini yourself. So the LLM Scraper API only supports ChatGPT and Gemini right now, but that will be enough for our test. In terms of costs, the API is very cheap. I will be using the live mode, and the price per one result page is $0.04. I think that will be perfect for this test. Tool or set of APIs we are going to use in order to build this dashboard. And the next step is actually getting the API access. So I will be signing up for DataForSEO right now. So I've logged in, and DataForSEO actually provides you free API credits to get you started. It might seem low, $1, but I think this will be sufficient for our test, considering that each API call will take about $0.04. I think we can create a workable dashboard with this amount. I will not be topping it up. So let's see if the free credits that DataForSEO provides is enough for this task. So once you have signed up for DataForSEO and you have your free credits, the next step is setting up the DataForSEO MCP in Claude Code or whatever LLM or tool that you are using to build the dashboard. The benefit of this is that you don't have to code the tool from scratch. You can just paste this URL into Claude. You can ask it to connect it to DataForSEO and it'll walk you through each step. And then you can basically use natural language to build out the tool. You won't need to query anything. You won't need to call any APIs. The LLM will select the necessary tools and commands from DataForSEO by itself. And connecting your LLM with the MCP is very simple. I'm simply going to copy this URL. So I've pasted this command in Claude Code and I will let it do its magic. So as you can see, I just pasted in the URL. Claude connected to the DataForSEO account by itself. It correctly verifies that the balance is $1. That is the magic of MCPs. Just as a side note, for this particular task, I will be using Opus 5, the newest model from Claude, but you can use 4.8 or even a lower model. I think that should be sufficient. That I want to use the best model available, so that's why I will be using that one. So Claude has finished verifying our connection to DataForSEO. It is asking me to actually restart the session so that the tools are actually callable. We'll go ahead and do that. Great. Now the MCP is fully connected. The tools are callable. The next step is configuring the prompt that I will use to build the actual tool. For that, let's go on Google Docs and brainstorm for a bit. So for this dashboard, what I'm thinking of is around 5 prompts that I need responses for. And then for those 5 prompts, I need the tool to give me the services that I mentioned, which pages are being cited, and a table or a graph showing the AI share of voice for each of the services mentioned. I will go ahead and I will type in the prompt. So I started building the prompt. This is a sample of what you can write, what you can start with, explicitly telling it to build me an AI visibility dashboard using DataForSEO's LLM Scraper API. And for this example, for the prompts, I am going to use our organization, Breaking B2B, as an example. So now I have the prompts here that I want to track. Next, I will tell the tool what output I want to see. So we have a required output here, the list of prompts with a response, brand mentioned. So we have our ideal output here that we want to see. We want to see the list of prompts with the responses for each prompt, the brands that are mentioned in those responses, the pages that are being scraped, and AI share of voice for each of the brands mentioned in the responses. So I will go ahead and I will simply copy this prompt. I'm in Claude, I've pasted, and let's run it and see what happens. So Claude is basically verifying if DataForSEO has the necessary APIs or tools for this task. So while Claude is running and a prompt is working in the background, would just like to note that not everyone's situation is the same. You might not have access to the same Claude subscription or the Claude models. In that case, I would just suggest you to work with the best that you have. You don't necessarily have to have this set of configurations for your prompt or your tool or your dashboard to work. This is simply a luxury, and this is simply that I am working on with the resources that I have to see what output I can come up with. If your situation is not the same, please don't worry about it. The principles here are the same. The tool that you will be using for getting the responses of different LLMs, the tool that you will be using to build the actual prompt, and an idea of the output that you need. Those are the main principles here, and those things are independent of the tech stack that you use. So yeah, please don't worry about it and just do whatever you can with the best that you have. So Claude is still running and it has taken around 7 minutes now with around K tokens consumed. That should give you an idea of how much tokens it can take for a task like this using Opus 5. So the test is finally finished. It took around 14 minutes, and even though it doesn't say the number of tokens that it consumed, it was around 3K. Now I know that sounds a lot, but bear in mind that I didn't do any token consumption management for this particular task. I just gave Claude a prompt and let it run with it. I didn't define the output as clearly as I could have. And even after it finished building the dashboard, it verified different things like dark mode, white mode, how it was rendering, if the content was aligned as well. It was then saving this tool to memory. So there were a lot of side tasks that were in this process. And all of those different tasks consumed a lot of tokens. So ideally, I could have defined the output more clearly and I would have kept the checks to a minimum. But yes, if you let it run, this is the amount of time and tokens that you can expect to be consumed. And in terms of how many API credits it consumed 0.63 cents worth of AI optimization APIs. And to me, that's a little towards the more expensive side of things. But again, the prompt was very unoptimized. The output wasn't defined as clearly as I could have. But this was just a random test to see how good the output could be without any strict measures in place. But that being said, keeping the boring cost stuff aside, let's go check the output. So the output is pretty extensive, which could be one of the reasons why the cost was so high. It is a lot. I think it is definitely more than what I asked Claude to create. So we have our cards at the top. We have the AI share of voice, just like I asked. The number of brands mentioned, the citations. Claude also took the liberty of adding more information, such as brands mentioned by both engines and the number of distinct brands. It has provided a list, a ranking of the different brands in terms of share of voice. Here is our brand, Breaking B2B, where each brand show up. This column is definitely not something that I asked for in my input prompt. Here is something that I did ask for. So the page is cited, the brands mentioned with a list of all the brands. I could have kept it to maybe the top 10. That would have saved costs even more. Yeah, so there are a lot of brands there, around 50 things. So again, that contributed a lot to the time it took for the dashboard to be built and the number of tokens and API credits consumed. Okay, so this section I did definitely ask for. It has a list of the prompts and the responses for those prompts broken by the model, ChatGPT and Gemini both. So this is definitely something that is going to be very useful. It has that information for each of the 5 prompts. Another thing is that you can choose what type of output that you want. So I didn't define if I wanted a CSV, a PDF, or a live URL. Claude decided itself that it is going to create an artifact on the Claude website. That is also something that you can configure in your test. So yeah, this was a test. This was a test of building a custom AI visibility dashboard using DataForSEO APIs to see if it could be a quicker, more efficient way of building AI visibility dashboards. I'm not sure if this is something that we can use for our clients. It was very rough and there's definitely a lot of improvements that I can make in terms of efficiency, reducing time, and token consumption. But yeah, if you're wondering how efficient or easy it would be to build such a tool, I hope this video was helpful. I will be diving more into this information to see how actionable it is, but I hope you have a guide into making such a tool for yourself. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. See you guys in the next one.